Hello everyone, welcome to our latest video in the Head in the Cloud series hosted by Citrus Global. Today's guest is Branko Dzakula, who is the CISO at Kaia Health. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Branko.
Thank you, Jack. Hi everyone, my name is Branko and I work for Kaia Health as the Chief Information Security Officer in Munich, Germany, and I've been doing security professionally for over 10 years, and I'm actively looking forward in let's say advocating for security and privacy in the industry, as well as looking how the general IT industry is shifting towards more secure, more privacy-oriented way of work. So thank you, Jack, for this session, and I'm looking forward to us spending some time chatting about security and everything else you have in your mind.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. Thanks for being a guest today on the Head in the Cloud series. I know we've been speaking a while, so since lockdown. I mean, how were you during lockdown, actually, Branko?
Well, pretty busy.
I can imagine.
We were all surprised by a very sudden switch in way of work. Some like to call it a new normal, but I like to call it a temporary, because the remote work is definitely something that caught a lot of people by surprise, and some people adapted very quickly. Some people adapted some people didn't adapt at all and can't wait to get back to the office. Myself, I don't have any issues with remote work. I like to take that opportunity for myself. Even before the pandemic, I used to do it. So it was pretty fine. But I was missing the office chatter and just informal conversations with colleagues over coffee. That's the thing I missed the most during this period. That's for sure.
I totally agree on that. Especially the social interaction with your colleagues. It's not quite the same via Zoom, is it? It's certainly not. What were your biggest frustrations? I mean, in particular for you, like obviously focus around security. What were the biggest security challenges within the company when moving remotely?
Right. Yeah. Well, it was a big challenge to quickly set up, the environment and the appropriate business tools and the processes that go with these business tools to make sure that employees can and your colleagues just across the board can continue to work in a very high-paced, and productive manner without compromising, any roadmaps that we already set up prior to the pandemic, like the entire roadmap for 2020, and just the commitment to, feature releases and to any product updates that you want to do in that period. Naturally, you want to keep the pace of how that development is done. And once your entire way of work shifts to another environment, you need to quickly compensate for that with sometimes a little bit of digital transformation, and sometimes just introducing the right tools and the right processes in teams. So it was a big challenge, not just doing all that, but doing all that securely, since naturally, especially in the healthcare industry, the data that you get your hands on every day is highly sensitive data with just healthcare information, patients' data, and other business critical information. So it was a challenge, but I think we managed to do it right.
That's good to hear. I suspect you learned a lot throughout the course of the past year, maybe more so than previous years, having to adapt and with all that happened. What were the main lessons that you've learned?
Well, what I was very surprised was that productivity rate actually increased during the pandemic.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and which everybody would say, and everybody would assume if you ask how would you expect this would impact productivity, and everybody would say it would definitely and drastically reduce it, but we got different results. And this was surprising. And I guess the lessons learned is uh, if you remove certain aspects from everyday business, people simply have less distractions in their home environment and do more work since they're in a lockdown. I mean, and this was in the lockdown period. I have to clear that out. When once the lockdown period lifted, people could go outside, and it was pretty much back to the same rate as it was before. But during the lockdown period, I guess it was just keeping busy that led to this higher productivity rate. But and the other lesson I learned is that changes can be implemented very swiftly when you're under pressure and when you have no choice. So that's definitely, digital transformation has no, there are no justifications to postpone digital transformation anymore. I think this is pretty clear in 2020 more than any other year before.
Yeah, I think, I agree on that. So people realised its importance, I suppose. But yeah, you mentioned there about being productive at home. I totally agree. There'd be some days if I was busy during lockdown that you didn't even realise to have your lunch. I'd look at the clock and it's like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've missed lunch and it's been like, what have I done here? Whereas in the office, you know what time your lunch is, you've got that structure, and as you say, you can go and sort of mingle when having a coffee and can get a bit more distracted. So I totally agree on that. So some good big lessons learned there. Okay, fantastic. I mean, if you could go back in time, would you have done anything differently to prepare for it? And if so, what might that have been?
Definitely. There's always room for improvement, and in our specific case, I guess a better setup in terms of processes more than technology. I mean, just getting licenses for Zoom is a matter of minutes, but getting that integrated into the culture, of the company, that people get used to doing more video calls, and just the way people do video calls should be also communicated prior, and some good tips and tricks, how to do it more productively, and how to keep the good concentration, on the to be on the topic, and how to present online as well, and just to keep meetings more interesting and the attention of your attendees high during video calls, because what we noticed, for example, in the first period, is that meetings degraded quickly. If we have over an hour meeting, I mean, just after that hour, everything we say, it doesn't stick, and just everybody keeps falling down and just losing focus. So it's more on the process area and the culture that you should prepare your entire organization and train them to do both, right? So office life and remote life both have their different ways that you can do them in a well-organized way. So I guess I would spend more time before the pandemic, in more or less testing these processes, and then implementing them when the time comes.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting point you made there around the 1 hour mark. So we hosted a few webinars earlier on in the lockdown. I suppose it was a bit towards the end of lockdown, and the feedback we got, luckily we kept it around the 45 minutes to under an hour, but the feedback we got prior to it, during, when we were inviting people, and afterwards as well, that anything over an hour, people just switch off, and it is understandable, isn't it? I mean, I think we all attended various webinars throughout, or conference calls, etc. And yeah, it was the case for me as well personally. I was definitely guilty for that. So yeah, I suppose it's every day's a school day, isn't it? And within these times, you pick it up as you go along, for sure. I mean, as a result of all this, go on. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, I just wanted to tie on that what you were just saying. I can imagine for for kids now to have full online classes, all day. And I already heard a lot of complaints, that the focus is just dropping a lot, and students are not paying that much attention, and that it needs to be done in a different way. It needs to be done in a shorter bursts, of and breaks that students can do, and it needs to be delivered in different ways. So you can't have a constant format. It won't work. And this is the same with meetings, and as the biggest fail, I think, in the business world is the virtual conferences. There were all-day conferences that you log in, to a portal, and then you can follow all these talks. I mean, I really tried. I gave my full best, like 3 coffees, and just get through this. And it's really interesting material that I want to listen to, but just sitting in a room, for such a long time, focused on more or less similar topics, it was really, really hard to focus. So it needs different way that they deliver this.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just keeping people engaged, isn't it? Yeah. What do you think is here to stay as a result of all of this now?
What I think, and what I really hope will stay for sure, is remote work policies in companies that didn't have them before, because I believe that this benefit is critical to have. So I'm not saying that all organizations should go full remote. That also doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It's keeping that as an option for an employee is what every company should absolutely have. And they now tested it, how it looks like. And I think even though whether they wanted it or not, they tested it. And I think this is a great time to make these decisions, and just upgrade your company culture, processes and documents, and simply offer this benefit to employees in whichever format. Is it like you can have 1 day off, in remote in a week, 2, or just any day, or permanently if you want, talk to your manager. Just there's big slider that you can how you can implement this, but I think even the minimum should be there in every organization.
Just to get shown and offered that flexibility, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it surprised a lot of companies, because I've worked with certain companies in the past that wouldn't have remote candidates, and it's, I suppose, limited them really in a way, because they've demanded that the people are on site. But now it's definitely opened up more doors, more avenues for those higher skilled, relevant candidates that cannot do the work remotely, because especially in IT, a lot of it can be done remotely. Virtually all of it can be, to an extent. So no, I totally agree on that for sure. What advice would you give to businesses moving forwards? Now obviously after everything you've learned, from a security perspective as well, what would be the main advice you give to businesses moving forwards?
Well, for all businesses that want to adopt remote work, I would definitely advise in keeping security highly prioritized in this way of work, since remote work opens a lot of risks and a lot of potential for compromise of company data, and high standards of user authentication is definitely something that all companies should consider, from a single sign-on to 2-factor authentication for absolutely all systems, and especially business critical systems should definitely be implemented in this setting. And devices that your employees take home, obviously laptops, should have minimum set of security security and endpoint protection measures, like disk encryption and an antivirus solution. And I highly advise the usage of VPN services to connect to any company resources from remote locations. And I guess these set of measures would be like the minimum set even for small to medium-sized businesses to keep a high security posture with very minimal investment.
Okay, great. No, thanks for sharing that. Okay. And given the current situation, of all that's happened now, obviously things are being done a lot more remotely. How do you think a modern talent partner should work?
Well, I guess in my field we have a very big shortage of security talent. So what I usually expect from modern talent partner is is keeping a good network, of security professionals at hand, because it's simply a huge market that I guess should always be looked at, and it poses a great opportunity for a modern talent provider, and partner to exploit. So if you can get us more security talent, and we will greatly appreciate it. So that's from my, I would say, subjective point of view, since this is the kind of relationship I have usually with talent partners who's trying to get good security talent.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Well, that's all the questions from me. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, I would like to always. I would say I would like to always recommend to everybody to keep their security and privacy awareness at high levels when working remotely.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Branko. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on as a guest in the Head in the Cloud series. Hopefully we can have you on in the future where we can look back on this time. As you mentioned, it isn't the new normal, but more so what would be back to normal. And we can, obviously look back and discuss about what's happening in the more modern times.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack, very much for having me. And thank you for everyone for listening.
Thank you very much. Stay safe as well, and you take care.